Okay, let's get started. So thank you all for joining us tonight. It's great to have you with us. I'd like to just take a moment and just thank the moderators who are joining me tonight. Start with Rose and Gary Scharlat, Nechama Koenigsberg, Nachman Bruce, Yael Wolf, and Laurie Tzchaki. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. I'm sure that everybody who's here tonight appreciates it as well. We have over 160 people who registered, which is amazing. You know, people from all over Israel, from around the world. And from my point of view, it's just such a pleasure to be able to do these webinars and give some useful information and help people and guide people. And so, thanks everyone for joining us, and thank you for the moderators. Before we get started, I just wanted to go over a couple of quick things. First of all, we are going to be recording the webinar, and we'll send out an email by Tuesday with the link to the recording. So if you have to leave early or if you've come late, don't worry about it. We'll send you an email with the recording. Also, you can go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A window. We're going to have a session at the end, the Q&A session at the end. And so we'll wait until then, and then we'll go through the questions and ask them. But in the meantime, if you want to post them in the Q&A window, go ahead and do it. And lastly, we're going to have a slide at the end with our contact information. And I really want to encourage you all to reach out to us. If you have any questions about Modine, about making Aliyah, about buying a home in Israel, we want to help you. We want to guide you. That's why we're here. So just feel free to call us, to email us, to WhatsApp us, and we'll be more than happy to help you. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Olim Advisors, I just want to spend a moment and talk to you about who we are and why we're doing this. Making Aliyah and finding a home in Israel, for many people, is a pretty complicated process. It could be nerve-wracking. And so when Laura and I set out to start Olim Advisors back in 2016, we really had two goals in mind. The first goal was to encourage and to guide people who have been thinking about making Aliyah, who have been dreaming about it, who want to make Aliyah. And we want to really help them along the process, to let them know that yes, it is possible. You need to plan ahead. You need to make some important decisions, but it absolutely is possible. And so that's really the first goal of encouraging people to consider making Aliyah. And the second part of what we're doing is really guide people through the process. So before people make Aliyah, helping them make decisions about which communities to move to, how to find the right schools, how to find the right homes. These, of course, are very important decisions, and we help people make those decisions. And then there's a second part of the Aliyah process, which is when you get to Israel, dealing with bureaucracy, going to the bank to open up a bank account, going to the government offices, just having questions about day-to-day things that maybe you take it for granted wherever you live right now. And so we, in essence, are the go-to people. We're the source, the information, and really, you know, our purpose and what we want to do is help people get to Israel and then really settle down and enjoy life in Israel. And I think that's something, you know, thank God we've been able to help hundreds of people, thousands of Anglos living in Israel. And so we're here for you. Any questions that you have, big or little, feel free to reach out to us. The other thing that we started doing about 6 months ago is helping people find a home. So not just for people who are making Aliyah, but also for the hundreds of thousands of Anglos who maybe have decided now it's time to buy a home, and they're just not familiar with the process. They don't know who they can turn to, who they can trust. And so that's really what we want to do now, is also help the people who may not be thinking about making Aliyah right away. Maybe they're making Aliyah down the road. Maybe they want to buy a vacation home in Israel, or maybe they just want to invest in Israeli real estate. Now they have a place to turn to, they have people to turn to. They can say, you can ask the questions, okay, well, what do we need to do? Who should we talk to? And this is what we're here for, and we'd be more than happy to help you. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Rose and Gary Scharlat, who made Aliyah a few years ago and are living the dream in Israel. They're so happy, and I think it's just, there's so much information that they can share with you. So I'm going to just fast forward the slide, and Rose and Gary, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, Rose.
Well, we made Aliyah just over 6 years ago. And I would, excuse me, I would say that we made it because we followed our children. Our daughter and son-in-law had made Aliyah 22 years ago, and our son and daughter-in-law made Aliyah just 6 months before we did. And I will say it's the best move we ever made. And we had made other moves in our 58 years of being married. So Israel tops them all.
It's really been 58 years?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, let me clarify things a little bit. I wanted to make Aliyah 12 years ago.
I didn't. I wanted to stay in West Orange, New Jersey, and continue selling real estate there. I was not ready to make a move. But
Okay.
once all our children and grandchildren were here, the time had come.
And so it was a great move. And
We made a pilot trip.
well, actually, it was a pilot trip because we thought we were going to live in Efrat. Our daughter had built a house and there was an apartment available to us in that house. So we came Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then through Sukkot, and we spent most of the time in Efrat. And toward the end, we came to Modine to be here for Sukkot and Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeres with our son. And sometime during that holiday, we were invited to a good friend's house. Actually, our next door neighbor from West Orange, the Wimmers, had made Aliyah a few years before, and they invited us for lunch. And we went, and there were 4 other couples invited, specifically not from West Orange, people we had no relationship with
You know,
prior. They were from New Jersey, but we didn't know them at all. And when we left the lunch, which was wonderful, Rose said, I could live here. And I said, you had me at hello.
I also felt very comfortable in the shul. It was much more like what we were used to. It was a very friendly shul, a big mixture of young families, families raising their children, and retired people, and it was very, very comfortable.
So that was Simchas Torah. We left Israel, went home, sold our house in West Orange, disconnected from everything in America, and we were back here for Pesach. Now, if you're going to make Aliyah, do it before Pesach so you can have one Seder instead of 2, as long as you're doing it. You know, timing is everything. But Modiin is a modern city with everything you need in it. It's centrally located, trains and buses, train to the airport. If you drive to the airport, it's about 20 minutes. If you take the train, it's less. Trains to Tel Aviv, just a lot of public transportation, easy to get around if you don't have a car. It's good to have a car. It's more a suburban city. I'd call it a suburban city than I would a big city like Tel Aviv or Jerusalem.
So what do we like about living in Modine? First of all, it was very easy to make friends. As soon as we went to, of course, we had a few friends here, but as soon as we went to shul, we were invited to different people's houses and probably didn't eat home for maybe 6 to 8 months for Shabbos. We're in a group of about 60, 75 families
Right.
that are retired and diversified from all over, all countries and all ages, from what do we say, 55 to
I'd say late
to
50s to
85.
60s to 85, or sometimes a little older. But I will tell you this, nobody's old. It's an interesting thing. Some of my friends in America might not like me to say this, but when you move from New Jersey and New York to Florida, it seems like it's for the last chapter. But when you come to Israel, it's a new chapter. It's an exciting thing. It's very different. It's psychologically a new beginning. And it's wonderful. And you can just jump in with both feet. There's so much to do here. It's just an amazing place.
So let's talk about what we do every day. A lot.
We're very busy. It's very hard to, sit and list what we do. But when we do it, we start to realize, do we do all of that? I have a garden farm, which English people would call an allotment, and people from America would remember it as a victory garden, people of our age, older people. Victory garden was something during the Second World War where you raised your own vegetables. And that's basically what I'm doing. I spend sometimes like 20 hours a week there because I'm really working and raising vegetables, and really it's a wonderful situation for me.
And wonderful for me that he has a place to be every day.
It's a lifesaver because if I were home, I don't know what the situation would be. I volunteered in the school for 2 years. One day a week, I went for English enrichment, and it was wonderful. And I was with children from the 2nd through the 6th grade. That's an opportunity to keep busy. You can volunteer. There's so many different organizations you can volunteer for in that way. I also do Sarel. Sarel is the civilian people who, from all over the world, right now it's been basically Israelis, including myself. We volunteer, we go to army bases. We stay on the army base for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, dress in uniform, eat with the soldiers, work with the soldiers, and we do all the labor and different jobs that soldiers now don't have to do. They can do more important things.
Okay, I am co-president of the English-speaking chapter of Hadassah Israel in Modine. We have very interesting meetings. A lot of people from America have transferred their membership to Hadassah Israel. So it's stimulating meetings. We do fundraisers, we do fun things, and we have a membership of 140 women. And we have about 5 men who are our secret weapons, help us with everything. And that's the bulk of what keeps me busy, along with mahjong once or twice a week, canasta, and then there's a card game that Gary and I play with couples called May I.
I do papermanship. I'm sorry, go ahead.
We also spend a lot of time with our grandchildren than our children. We see our grandchildren a lot. And that's the wonderful part of being here. We're very fortunate. We have everybody here in Israel.
I discovered that I'm half of an artist, I think. I did ceramics, which I loved, and now I'm doing paper mache. And I just was introduced to watercolor painting. I just made one bookmark, but I really love it, and I think I may get further into it. That's aside from the fact that we have monthly Rosh Chodesh luncheons, men and women.
Separately. You just came home from a tiyul.
I just did a 3-day tiyul up north around the Kinneret. I laughingly say we visited shuls and vineyards. Okay, we had a good time. This was organized by somebody in the Modine seniors. 3 people got together and organized a tiyul for 20 people. We spent 3 days in the north having a wonderful time. There are professional tiyuls out there. There are organizations that start tiyuls, tiyulim. Ezra does it, AACI, which is the American and Canadian organization. There's so much to do here that no one should ever worry about the fact that they'd be bored. And if you have friends where you are, you're going to have a lot of friends here.
There's book clubs, there's knitting clubs, there's sewing clubs, there's bridge clubs. Any thing that you're interested in where you're living now, you'll find here, or you can start it and people will join. People are very interested in trying new things. There's lots of classes. I have a shir every Wednesday morning. Gary has one also on Wednesdays, a different one, but there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Shabbat. There's plenty of classes for anybody who wants to learn. And we entertain a lot. and we're entertained a lot.
Remember, we're not 9 to 5 people. You have a lot of time to arrange and get together with people. It's a fantastic situation.
We're supportive of friends who need help. We're supportive of, we're here to do what we would want, what we've wanted to do all the time that we didn't have time to do, if that makes sense.
That's our
Amazing.
day.
Amazing. I think you're doing one day more than I do in a month. So kol hakavod to you guys. Thank you for sharing.
And one other thing I just want to say is I don't speak any Hebrew. I knew more Hebrew before I got here, and somehow or other I've lost my English and my Hebrew. But we did take Olfan for 9 months, I think.
10 months.
I mean, that's it. I hope we painted a picture that you can relate to.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, Nachman, I'll hand it over to you. You're just on mute. There you go.
Can I share? Can I share a screen?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead.
Okay. You need to allow me to do it though. It says you need to give me permission.
Can you do it now? You should be able to do it now.
Still not. No.
Okay, I'm not sure. So we'll have to go for the screen.
Oh, so I can't share a screen?
No.
Oh, okay. So, how about I send it to you and you just put it up? Okay, look, we'll just make it more, maybe a little bit interesting. That's all. No problem. So I'll do without the screen then. Okay. So, hello, my name is Nachman Bruce. I've been working with the Olim in Modine for the last about 11 years actually. Specifically, the Olim, the student Olim, which is specifically more middle school to high school. And I'm the Olim coordinator at a Yeshivat Lapid High School. I have a background in education, but I won't need to go into that right now. So the question is, how do you keep if you're coming with Olim students, you're coming with your children, you want to keep them happy, and is there such a thing as a happy Olim student? And and I felt I had to just share this with you because I was looking in the Parsha this week and I saw that Hashem challenges the people of Israel with water. In other words, the year before all the Jews make Aliyah, Hashem basically turns off the tap and there's no more water left. And why is Hashem doing this? So Haimek Davar of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, he actually says that the reason Hashem is doing this is actually to train the Jewish people for when they're being in Israel. In other words, what makes Israel, what makes you worthy of coming and living in Israel is realizing that you should not be reliant on these great figures like Miriam and Moshe and Aaron anymore. When you go to Israel, you become extremely important, and you need to be able to bring water and all the essential things that you have. When that happens, when we unify and when we with a lot of faith. But I want to make an analogy between water and what I think is the greatest challenge that your children will have, or one of the, which I think is connected to all other challenges, and that is water being the language. In other words, when your children come over and they want to learn, for them, water in the United States has been English. Now they're coming to learn, and they don't have that water, that natural language anymore. The most difficult obstacle for them is the language, and that affects a lot of things. Firstly, it can cause frustration, depression, social distancing, feelings of failure. They're not successful as they used to be. lack of motivation, anxiety. It could cause a lot of things, but it doesn't have to, but it can. And so how do we approach Olim, the make Aliyah, in the at least the Lapid Yeshiva, the high school and the middle school? What first the first thing I think you need to understand as parents is that when we talk about language, the question is, what language are we talking about? So you might say, okay, Hebrew, obviously, but no, I'm actually specifically talking about two languages. One is called Hebrew, but it's called spoken Hebrew, and the one is called academic Hebrew. And if you look in the, you go to different sources, different researchers, they talk about learning Hebrew as a spoken language. Your children will learn it. It could take around 2 to 3 years. And for you, if you want to master the Hebrew, if you need it, and it'll help you for socializing, it'll help you for going out to buy pizza, maybe going on the bus. But will it make you a successful student? And the answer is no, it won't. Because I found, and I've actually experienced this when I was also teaching some colleges in Israel. One of them is Merkaz Lev, Machon Lev, if you've heard of it. And I taught a few mathematical courses there to business students in the international program. And I come into the class and I see, wow, I have all these wonderful students from all these different countries, and they're all teaching in English. And guess what? I have these Olim that have been here for years, 10 years, 5 years. They've gone through the school system even, but they have a big difficulty in learning academic topics. And when I talk about academic topics, that's any subject you can think of in school. So what subjects do we have in school? You have all the Judaic subjects. You have Gemara, you have Chumash, you have Halacha and Jewish thought. Then you have the sciences and the maths and media. Some learn law. All these subjects are very, very hard. And what happens is you get so the first question, the first thing I think you need to know, or the hurdles or greatest hurdles, is academic English, because that's what your children will need theoretically to make it happen. And that's one thing. The second thing I think you need to know is when you bring your children to Israel, the way and they could be, and I'm talking about your wonderful children that you love so much. Realize one thing: when they come to the school system, they're going to be, unfortunately, a special needs student. I mean, when you think, and I have a master in special education, and when you think of a special needs child, you think of, okay, they go into the class, they're not understanding, they find it hard to write down what's going on. They so they are, in fact, what the way we see them, or way I think you should see them, even though you may never have seen them this way, when they come to Israel, they do have special needs, okay? And it's all language based. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It's totally natural, and it's a hurdle, it's an obstacle, but something that I believe they can grow from. Now, what I just want to present is the last bit is, what are the solutions to our two main problems? And again, I'm talking about the language being the spoken language, but the academic language. And that's what I just want to focus on. How can we make it work, make them be happy, make them succeed, and fulfill their dreams in the future in the land of Israel, coming to an Israeli-speaking school, a Hebrew-speaking school. So I tell you what we do in the Yeshivat Lapid. Our solutions are firstly having an Olim coordinator, where no matter what school you go to, make sure there's someone that is there for you to speak up for your children, that you can go to when you have issues. And there were always, and the Olim students, because of special needs, they need someone there for them. The school, we've had Olim for many years. We've had Olim that come in many different situations, from even grade 10, 11, sometimes they come grade 10, 11, and sometimes the Olim have their own learning disorders, difficulties, whatever it is, in addition to the language. And so there's a lot of understanding. So we try to teach our staff to be understanding. And when it comes to build, the most important thing is what's called the Olim program, which includes firstly understanding that they should have realistic expectations when they go into a class. There'll be an Ulpan for the spoken language, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is the academic language. And how do we support that? We have a whole Olim program, and we actually have in our school more than 100 hours a week of hours that we give to Olim, so that they can have both more social hours and also academic hours, so to help them in sometimes in groups that are just for Olim, and actually sometimes like some history groups or civics groups, which you take out a whole group of Olim and we actually teach the whole subject to them. There'll be material in Hebrew, but sometimes we'll teach it in English. It depends on the group. And so what I would think you should take from this presentation, which you can't see, only I can see it, is that there are challenges, but the three main messages I think you should take with you is that if you have the right approach to Aliyah, keep in mind this is a good challenge that anyone can pass if they because that it's there. That's what it's a challenge. It's meant to be the challenge, and we're meant to be better for it. Number one, but everyone can get through it. The second thing is that the obstacle of the academic language, and your children will be, in so to speak, have special needs, which is totally normal. And it's important you understand that as parents, because you won't have to face this challenge unless you go to a work and you have to speak in Hebrew and learn the words associated with that type of profession you're in. But your children will need to study another language called an academic language. And the most important thing to help your children is by finding a school with a good Olim program, no matter where that is. And certainly if you come to Modiin and you come to Shivat Lapid, we'd love to have you. And if you have any more questions about school, what we do, this is just a general overview. There's many details, but you're welcome to contact me further whenever you want.
Great. Thank you so much, Nachman. And again, yeah, I'll put Nachman's contact information and everyone else's at the end, and so you can reach out to him directly. Okay, Nechama, you're up. Let me get your slide.
Sure.
There you go.
Okay, so hi, my name is Nechama Koenigsberg. I made Aliyah almost 3 years ago. We're coming up on our 3-year Aliyah anniversary. We made Aliyah with children of various ages. Our oldest was entering 10th, and Nachman helped him through school. He just graduated, Baruch Hashem.
Flying colors.
What, Nachman?
With flying colors.
Baruch Hashem. He really, he and Nachman spent a lot of time together, but he did an amazing job. We're really proud of him. And I had children, a child entering 7th grade at the time, which was in Israel. That's entering middle school, high school. So everyone was transitioning in her grade. We had a daughter entering 3rd grade, and we had a son entering Tromgan, which is like pre-K in the United States. So we had children of various ages, and we chose Modiin, specifically Buchman, the Buchman area, because it's known to be a warm and welcoming community, and especially for children who are older, that they could feel very comfortable. So for my oldest son, who is entering 10th grade, he knew 2 boys from his grade coming in. But the first day of school, there was a boy who he didn't know that had been told that he was coming. And that boy welcomed him and took him under his arms. And they're still best friends, and God willing, for many more years. And the kids here just understand that there are new Olim every year, and they're just well trained in how to welcome them and how to make them feel comfortable. Each of my children has English speakers in their class, which is very helpful for them to feel comfortable, but at the same time, they need to be integrated into the school and into speaking the Hebrew language, each on their own level. So there's this feeling of comfort. I have my Anglo friends that I can rely on, or if I need to speak English, or if I need help with something, and yet at the same time, they're meeting Hebrew speakers, and each one, again, at their own time, has become integrated into their school society. So that's a little bit about our family and the Modiin community. I believe we go to the same shul as the Scharlats, correct? KSYM. And like they shared, it's also, it's an Anglo-based shul, but the Rav is Israeli. He's a Merkaz Harav Rav, but there's a rabbinic figure in the shul, which is not always common in Israel. Only certain communities have a Rav. And the shul has, like the Scharlat shared, it has events for seniors, it has events for parenting, it has events for our teenagers, our young children, similar to their experience in the United States, I would say, which has really helped, again, in forming friendships, in getting comfortable in the community, and in helping raise our children with a certain set of values that we're hoping to instill in them. And then I would say the last piece of why we chose Modiin was for the centrality of it. It happens to be my brother lives in Chashmonaim. We wanted to be close to them. And at the same time, my husband, before we moved, was hoping to transition to working in Israel. And he knew that he wanted to be able to commute to Tel Aviv. And I know someone asked a question about trains. So he takes the train, not on a daily basis right now, since Corona, but 2 to 3 times a week. He takes the train, and it's about a half hour at most commute for him for work. And that's been helpful as well.
Great, thanks, Nechama. And yeah, we do see the questions coming through here, and we'll get to them in just a few minutes. Yael, now I'm going to hand it over to Yael, who's going to talk about different properties that are available for rent and to purchase in Israel. So Yael, it's up to you.
Hi, Rafi, do you have the slides to put up?
Yeah, I have after this one. So do you want me to flip to this one?
Pardon?
Yeah, can you see it now?
I don't see it. Give me a second.
Do the other moderators, do you see the slides?
Yeah, that's not the first.
So this is the first one with the map of Modine.
Okay, so hi, I'm Yael, and we made Aliyah 6 years ago. I came with my husband and our 4 children from Los Angeles, and I was a teacher for about 12 years in Los Angeles. And then when I came here, it was my dream to always be a real estate agent. And so that's what I do here. And we help Olim to find their first home in Israel. And it's really an honor to be here and to help you to, get a foothold in Israel and to be able to be in this process with you from the beginning, whether it's just before you're even coming or when you get here, and then showing you the homes, and then, seeing you flourish, which I've seen with, countless Olim that have come. And I just wanted to speak specifically about Modiin. So in the neighborhood of Modiin, Nechama mentioned it being central. So it's between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. You're 25 minutes from each city. And when they planned the city of Modiin, and it's a very, very well-planned city, they took into consideration how central it is. And you can get pretty much anywhere by the train, by buses. So that's something to take into consideration. A lot of the Anglos moved to Buchman and they moved to Kaiser. I would say out of, most of the Olim that are coming, that's the majority of where they're looking to go is the majority of them are looking to move to either Buchman or to Kaiser because of the Anglo community and the soft landing that you have that's, that comes with that. So like both of you mentioned, Nechama and the other couple, Gary, you guys mentioned, the array of activities there are to do. So, if you're in Buchman or you're in Kaiser, it's really, really endless, and the support and so on and so forth. And we don't actually live in Modiin, we live in Chashmanaim, but I work in Modiin, and so I'm going to talk a little bit about what the market is like now and the current trends, and in order to find a home, if you're coming this summer or planning to come next summer, things that you could do to make the process much easier. So I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, but do you see a map over here of just before there was a map of Modiin, and that's Modiin. Pretty much there's a road that's the 431. It will take you either north or south to the to either areas of the country, and now let's go into the neighborhood. So you have Buchman, which is very, very Anglo. In terms of like living there, yes, there are tons of Anglos and it's fabulous. I would say the demographic is an older demographic, and not older like 55 plus, but families with kids that are older. And Kaiser, if I'm going to differentiate, has families with kids that are younger. So that are going into GAN, that are going to first and second grade and third grade. And then you also have in Kaiser a lot of 55 plus that are looking to move because of the accessibility of the community. It's very, very close to the train. It's close to the mall. It's close to pretty much everything. So Buchman, you need to have a car to get around, whereas Kaiser, you could just, it's pretty walkable. But within Buchman itself, there is the Maria Center. So you have that where you could do your shopping and all of the things. They have Maccabi, which is the healthcare system. And there's no bank, but you would go to the mall and do that. Okay, if you want to go to the next slide. Rafi. Okay, so just to give you an example of like properties that are for sale in Buchman, they start at around, well, in general in Modiin, if you wanted to buy a small 3-bedroom apartment, it would probably, with an elevator, not necessarily the most modern, beautiful apartment, but prices begin at around 1.7 million shekel for what's called a 4-room, but it's 3 bedrooms, and you would probably have about 80 square meters. This here as an example is of an apartment or a cottage that's for sale. It's 4.5 bedrooms and it's 168 square meters. So just to give you an example of something that you can buy, it's modern, and that's about the price points of what you would get if you're looking in Buchman specifically. This is another apartment that's for sale. It's a 5-bedroom garden apartment, and they're asking 4.5 million shekel. Everything that I've put up is really current. It's on the market today. What's crazy to me is it's been very, very quiet because of Corona. I had, months where I got phone calls, a lot of interest, and a lot of people coming from the States, and a lot of panic last year of like, oh, we want to make Aliyah, we need to leave the States, and Corona, and then people couldn't even come in. And now, thank God, like it's like the floodgates have opened, and the inventory is not, things come and go very, very quickly. And thank God they do. And that's where, in a way, I guess I come in, that I'm here on the ground. I act as your eyes and your ears for you. And when you're ready to really find the apartment, you would call me and I will help you through the process. Like, how does it work in terms of paying the rent? Do you pay with checks? Is it a wire transfer? What are the expectations and the responsibilities on the person that's the tenants versus the owner? What is their responsibilities? So all of those things I'll help you with. And I also tend to go above and beyond. But I just wanted to point out that the properties that I'm showing you are things that are right now on the market. And even like I changed some of the pictures because just as an example, last week I had a couple that were coming and they were looking in Buchman, and we found an apartment, and then about 2 days later, the owner called me and he said to me, I have someone who wants to sign. They need to either take it or not take it. And pretty much I had to let my clients know right away that if they didn't take it, it would be gone. And they decided to take it, and thank God, and they're able to now have this apartment. But that's how quickly things come and go. And they were kind of shocked by how quickly it's going. And my phone, thank God, has been ringing and ringing like the whole last 2 days, and last week and the week before. And I see that people, Baruch Hashem, are really, really coming, and the Jewish agency is working with them, and they're either arriving July or August, and then, I guess like for the school year. So here's a property that's for sale in Bochum. It's 5 bedrooms, a garden apartment, and they're asking 4.5 million shekels. So and this is another example, 3.8 million shekels, 210 meters. It's 4 bedrooms. It has a garden, and it's, updated, and it's modern, and it's pretty. So that's another example of something that's also available. That one is also in Bochum. Just to give you guys a sense of, like, if you're coming and you're thinking about buying, what you'd be looking to spend. And I think that's important when you choose a community. You have to think about think about the long view as well, not just like, okay, I'm here and I'm renting, and then, will we be able to afford to buy if we want to stay in this community, or is our plan to continue renting for long term? Those are things to think about when you are coming here and making Aliyah. The next slide. So this is in Kaiser. It's a completely remodeled single family home that was renovated 2 years ago, and it's for rent for 11,500 shekels. That's on the high end for Kaiser specifically. You can find there's a lot of demand for Dimri at the moment, the Dimri Towers, where you have a lot of Anglos. The way that they've described it to me living there is it feels like a kibbutz. So they're there, and they're paying between I would say 5,500 to 6,500 shekels, like 5,500 shekels to 6,500 shekels a month. And then you have to also take into consideration the arnana, which is property tax, and the vad habayit. So for this property that's in Kaiser, it's a single family home, so you wouldn't have a vad habayit. The vad habayit is the HOA fees, like a homeowners association. And in most places in Modiin, you have cottages, you have apartments. There are not so many single family homes. So you need to also take that into account when you're planning your budget of what it is that you're going to be spending on a monthly, basis. So the vad habayit could be, 200 shekels a month or 300 shekels a month. And that is dependent on the maintenance of the building itself. So, do they have someone who's maintaining the lobby? Is there a social hall? Is there elevators that need to be cleaned? Or is it just there's an entrance and that is swept, weekly, and that makes a difference to the price for that. So these are apartments that are often come up. It's in Bochum again. It's called the Bochum Gold Project. It's on Rochav Le'emeno, and it's very close, probably maybe 100 meters from the Mariah Center. And just as an example, a 2-bedroom apartment rented there for 5,300 a month, and a 5-bedroom just sold for 5.89. Obviously, it depends on the size as to what you're going to be paying. And that's Bochum, to give you an example of what's available. And then this is, a picture of something typical that you would see in a cottage, an apartment, or even in a home in Modiin. And I've put here, it's the creme de la creme. I really feel very, very strongly that anywhere that you choose in Modiin itself is, the best of the best. And with regard to the schools as well, you have such a plethora of incredible schools and people, and the same goes for the homes. There's really some beautiful homes, which is why the prices are what they are. You're buying, or you're renting in it, and you're buying into a community. You're not just buying, 4 walls and a floor. You're buying into a home, please God, that is your home, your forever home, and you're becoming a part of something. So yeah, if you're looking to make Aliyah, I'll finish up here by just saying, like, here's all of our information, and call me when you're ready. If you're still thinking about community, you could still call me with pleasure to ask questions or whatever, but more specifically when you're ready to hit the ground running, because you really do need to be ready in order to compete with the people that are here that are looking to buy or to rent.
Great, thanks so much, Yael. All right, it's time to get to the questions. So Laura, I'll hand it over to you if you want to just go through some of the questions. And if anybody has questions, feel free to put it into the Q&A or into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them.
So I saw that they were asking, Rose and Gary, what neighborhood do you live in? Where do a lot of the retirees, do they live in Dimri or Buchman?
Well, most of our friends, most of the Modine seniors group live in Buchman, live within, I'd say, a 5 or 6 block area around the shore.
But we have lots of friends who live in Dimri, and that's, Yael described it perfectly when she talked about it. And I'm there probably 3 times a week in Dimri.
Now there's a question here. Someone's asking, I'm thinking of Aliyah, but my daughter is a 9th grader. Is there a school that she can study in English and just take Ulpan as we go along? Is it a good idea? So I don't know, Nechama or Nachman.
I can talk about it. So first of all, I came with a child going into 10th grade. He did go into the local B'nai Akiva school, and I think it's encouraged for children to try to go into the community schools and become part of the local community with the Olim services that are provided from each school. I didn't share earlier, but I do work at the Opana, the girls' high school. And I'm actually becoming the Olim coordinator next year. So I will have Nachman's role.
They know the Hebrew, but they went to an English.
Gary, you can just mute your mic. Overheard you. Thanks.
So I will have Nachman's role in the Opana to try to help provide, again, all the Olim services from Ulpan to studying for the Bagriyot test and having Olim services for the girls and the girls' middle school and high school. At the same time, there are kids who it's just not right for them, or they've tried and then they feel that it's just too much for them, it's too much pressure, or it's overwhelming for them, even with the services. And there's an option in Yerushalayim called YTA, where the learning is in English. I have a student who switched there this year. She was an amazing English student. I taught her for 2 years, but the Hebrew was just too stressful for her. And she's so happy. And it's just, everyone just wants the children to be happy and to feel the most success that they can feel. So there are both options available.
Can I just add, if it's possible? My son just graduated from Na'aleh, which is a program specifically geared to parents or families that are thinking of making Aliyah. And when we came, the Hebrew was really hard for him. And they went from just accepting families that are making or thinking about making Aliyah to families that are actually here already living in Israel. So my son started in 11th grade and he just graduated 2 days ago, and we couldn't be happier. It's really like, this all-encompassing environment where the teachers speak English and they helped him with whatever he needed. And they have programs all across the country.
But that's for boys, Yael, right?
Yeah, the program that's closest to Modiin is Na'aleh in Shalavim. It's the religious boys program. There's a religious girls program in Kfar Saba. It's called
It's a dormitory, I believe. So yeah, we should just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and I know there are students that go there from Modiin and from Shalavim, from Chashmonaim. So those are options even if you're in Modiin.
Thank you. And then there's a question here. How do you enroll your children in school if you do not yet have a place to live in Modine? And what records do you need to bring from our children's old schools for middle or high school?
Nachman?
Yeah, sure.
Nachman, do you want to answer or you want me to do that?
Yeah, fine. Look, well, firstly, if you're sure about the school that you want to enroll them into, the yeshiva, we can already start the process of finding the letting the school know that they're coming and having emails go out to the parents. You would usually send your report cards or if they have any background in learning issues and difficulties, so that we could prepare, we could think about the right class for them. We would start doing that even before officially enrolling in the area, the city council, because every student in Israel needs to enroll in the city council. But we could already kind of put them on the books, so to say, as long as we know they're coming or they plan to come.
Right,
And then they would
the actual enrollment doesn't happen until you have a lease.
Right.
But as Nachman said, especially if your child has any learning difficulties, those documents are so important to bring with you. If they have an IEP in the States, I'm not sure how it works in the UK or Australia, but in the States, if they have an IEP, the more documentation you bring, the easier the process will be.
Right. What's the distance between Buchman and Kaiser? Is it possible to walk between the two neighborhoods, Yael? Is it walkable?
No, it's driving. You need to get in the car and you need to drive, unless you're like my brother-in-law who loves doing, suffering with doing marathons and like, a 3 hour, I don't know how long it would take, but I would say it's a 5 to 10 minute drive. No, Nechama?
Yeah, it's a little hard to learn the communities within Modine here. They're not labeled. It's not like you're walking, you're driving to a neighborhood and it says, welcome to Kaiser. You just sort of learn where each neighborhood is. And as much as someone said before, it's a suburban city, it's a city. At least for me, I was coming from New Jersey. It certainly has a city feel to it. But you're just going to learn by the streets. So there's going to be a group of streets that go according to the Shvatim, and you're going to learn that that's the Shvatim area. And there's a group of streets that go according to the names of the Nevi'im, and that's the Nevi'im area. And you sort of learn it. I joke that in the evenings I drive Modiin circles, because Modiin's one big circle, and just between all the carpools for different children, and I would say that that's different than a yeshuv, is that my children, yes, they could get there by bus, but my children, for the most part, rely on us and their friends' parents for carpooling and things like that, as opposed to a yeshuv where they would walk by themselves. So that's something to keep in mind.
Right. Someone's asking here, she's saying that it seems like a very overwhelming process, and she's wondering who would be the first person to contact, which school is correct for your child. So
that's something that we do with the Olim advisors. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people don't necessarily know which communities they want to move to. If they do know which communities they want to move to, they might not know which schools. And so feel free to reach out to me, and we'll talk to you and really understand your needs and your preferences, and then put together a list of schools. And what we recommend is starting with a much wider, longer list, and then narrowing it down, so we can help you by introducing you to the different administrators at the different schools, like Nachman and Nechama, and the different principals, so you can get a feel of the different schools, try and determine which school is best for your children, and then kind of go from there. So we know for many people this process can be overwhelming, and so we want to try and create a game plan for you, kind of a step-by-step approach of what you need to do, and then it becomes less intimidating, less overwhelming.
One question here, they're asking if you know of anything like YTA for 7th grade boys. Does YTA starts in 9th grade, correct? So is there anything for younger, for starting like middle school?
I want to give you an idea of what maybe it'd be like to come in grade 7. If you don't mind, just in the Lapid Yeshiva, you have anywhere between 6 to 10 Ulpan hours, and you could have anywhere between 9 9 to 11 Olim hours in addition to that. In other words, if there are 44 hours or say 40 hours of study, that 50% of them, or maybe 60% of them, could be in just with Olim, so that they really
It's a lot of support.
There's a tons of, I mean, and a lot of it is in English. I mean, to be honest, it's just a lot of it because that's what they need. And
Right.
so I'm just saying that to keep that in mind, depending on the school. With I know the Yeshiva at the Pit for the last 2 years has been has had a special program for the Olim because we've had so many. I think it's called the Pele program.
Right.
So we'll get
one of the reasons that people consider YTA is because the kids are older and they have to start dealing with the Baguriot, which are the matriculation exams, and so the kids don't have a lot of time to really learn the language and be prepared and do well. But as Nachman was saying, when you come in, when your kids are younger, and when we met Elia, our oldest kid was going into seventh grade, I think now, it gives him more time to learn the language and to adjust and to kind of fit in. And so in many cases, it works best for the kids to go into a school that has a lot of Israelis, but has the support, as Nachman was saying, so the kid can catch up, but at the same time, they're meeting a lot of Israeli kids, they're speaking Hebrew, and over time you will find that they really do adjust better that way. So there are a lot of options, but I think one of the important things is to think about schools that have the support, because that will make the adjustment a lot easier. It makes the landing a lot softer.
Rafi, I'll just add that also remember that 7th grade is a transition for everyone. Everyone's coming from elementary school, everyone's coming from different schools, and they're coming together. So it's a great opportunity socially to make friends. Everyone's new, which sometimes is really helpful. We had that with our daughter. So everyone was new to the school, and then she slowly integrated. So again, I don't think there is an option for all English at that age, but there are definitely a lot of services in Modine.
And then someone's asking, is Modine suitable for middle-aged singles? Maybe Rose and Gary, what do you think about that? But just you're on mute. Gary, you're on mute. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now you can hear me.
There you go.
My expertise is not the middle-aged singles. I really can't answer that question. I see a lot of middle-aged singles.
Male or female?
It didn't specify.
Nechama, maybe do you know
It's
in
a tough one.
communities that you guys go, are there a lot of single people there? Are there programs for singles? Or is it more
Not so much.
retirees?
Not so much that I know of. It could be a different area in Modine does have that available. Not that I know of.
Okay. And then just one other question. They wanted to know the commuter trains to and from Yerushalayim. How often do they go? Is there a direct train from Modine to Jerusalem?
Not yet. Not yet. They're working on that.
Okay.
You go to Ben Gurion Airport, and from Ben Gurion you can take the fast train to Yerushalayim.
But a lot of people take buses, right? There's a lot of buses from Modine to Jerusalem.
Yes, there are definitely from the Tachana, which is by the mall. There are definitely buses regularly. And even my high school kids feel comfortable doing that.
Okay. I think there was one other question. I think it's the last one about what opportunities exist for English teachers.
Teaching in where? In high schools, colleges, where?
It didn't specify. Again, just a very general question. Are there opportunities in Modine for English teachers?
what's the process if somebody wanted to apply for a job?
Okay, so I could talk to that. I went through the process.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I am a teacher. In the States, I taught Judaic Studies elementary school. Here in Israel, I'm currently teaching all different age levels of English, everywhere from kindergarten, third grade, high school. But Bezrat Hashem, next year, I'll be solely at the Opana, at the high school. In terms of the process, so I wasn't planning on teaching right away. A teacher from my daughter's school went on bed rest and they called me. They knew I was a teacher and they asked me to come help them out. That's sort of how I got started there. And from there, I began the process of transferring my degrees. Transferring your degrees is not a simple process. You need every single document, your transcripts, your degrees, original documentation of everything. It takes some time. If you have any transfer credits like APs, you needed the original documentation for that as well. You have to come prepared knowing that it's going to be a process. It's not going to happen overnight. So that was my first step. And then I got my degrees were approved. After my degrees were approved, I had to take a course for Morim Olim as a new teacher in Israel. And I had to do what's called stage, which is a year of mentorship. So that was last year that I completed that. And once I completed that process, I got my Tu'udat Hora'ah, my Israeli teacher certificate. Now that I have that, I'm recognized by Misrad HaChinuch, and I'm teaching in the high school through Misrad HaChinuch. You can teach, because our school is a B'nai Akiva school, you can teach and get paid through B'nai Akiva, but you can only teach certain classes. So it definitely helps if you transfer over your degrees and get your Tu'udat Hora'ah, but it did take me a year and a half to complete that process and to get recognized.
Great. Okay, well.
And then just one final question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, just one more question. They just wanted to know how many shuls there are in Buchman besides KSMY. Are there many? They're saying not many, but actual shuls.
There's about 7, I believe, Nechama. Is that right?
There are a lot. There are definitely a lot of shuls. There are fully Israeli shuls. There's another Anglo shul called the Chuna Ranana.
And Elad also.
Elad is, I think, more Israeli, if I'm correct.
You got
Yes.
KSYM, and then you got 2 shuls right next to KSYM.
Right,
Really,
you have a
right
Sephardic.
next door to it.
Right, you have a Sephardic shul and another shul, and then right across the street from us, there's an Israeli shul called Lev Achim, that my husband goes to Friday night, Shabbat afternoon sometimes.
There's another shul on Don.
There are a lot of shuls.
So there's a lot of options.
Yeah, it's a matter of what you're looking for. If you're looking for a shul that's just a shul, you're gonna go daven and go home. There's a ton of opportunities and a ton of options. But if you're looking for a shul to serve a little bit more than that, I would say L'chuna Ranana or KSYM are most similar to what people from the States are used to.
Okay.
And then there's a shul in Kaiser also that's more Anglo as well. And we didn't talk at all about the Nofim community, which is a newer up and coming community, very young. So they're building a shul there also that will be very Anglo.
That's good to know. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks again to the moderators for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And to everybody that joined the webinar, we just want to encourage you to go through the process. We know that it's overwhelming, and we want you to know that you have friends here in Israel that are more than happy to help you and guide you in any way that we can. So just stick with it, put together a plan, and we're here to help you. So Shavua Tov, have a great week, everyone. Be well. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
What's up, Rafi? Thank you so much.
Have a good
Thank you.
night.
One thing to all of you, my parents made Aliyah 12 years ago, in their 60s. And my mother, she says always, her biggest regret is not coming earlier. And I couldn't agree with her more. So,
And we agree with her too.
We did
Yeah.
it in our 70s, and it's been the most amazing move. And we're not retired, we're repurposed.
thank God.
Remember that word.
Really a bracha to be here.
Amen. Good night, everybody. Take care, everybody. Be well.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.